Hi, this is Jeff.
It is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, this is John Scott.
John,
Guy.
how you doing today?
Great, man. So you know Bubba Wayne?
Oh, you already know about it. I was hoping he hadn't told you.
Well, he didn't, but I heard word that you know him, and he's one of my best friends. We went to work at MCA Records together.
That's what he
They
told
hired
me.
me. I was a Memphis DJ, and they hired me. They said, "Well, we don't know. We're going to have to see if this guy John Scott goes back to being a DJ. Sometimes they don't like the job. We'll hire you, Wayne. If this guy turns out okay." And they hired him, and we had a big meeting here in L.A. And Wayne and I shared a room.
Oh, okay. So Bubba told me to ask you about Elvis and the Raisinets.
Well, you know, I was in Memphis, and one of my first jobs at a movie theater in Memphis, Crosstown Theater. And Elvis, rented out movie theaters at midnight, and he happened to rent our theater that night. And my boss said, "Hey, anybody who from they call it the Memphis Mafia group of people, 30 people, if anybody comes over to the candy counter, just give them what they want. And don't charge them anything." I said, "Okay, fine." I'm standing there, and all of a sudden Elvis starts walking over to the candy counter. I went, "Oh my God!" I start shaking, and he comes over and he says, "How you doing? I'd like a couple of boxes of those Raisinets." And I'm shaking, and I hand them to him. And you know what he said next to me? Thank you very much." And man, I almost lost it. I cannot believe I gave 2 boxes of Raisinets to Elvis Presley. That's my Elvis story.
Well, I've got some other friends from Memphis, and it seems like just about everybody that lived over there during that era has a story about running into him at a gas station or, like you said, a movie theater.
Yep. DJ in Memphis from 1967 to 74, from 100.
That was a big station back in those days.
Boy, I tell you, we could play basically anything we wanted to, and we broke so many bands at that station. David Bowie, ZZ Top, my God, the list goes on. And MCA Records hired me as a local promotion guy. Because when I heard Under Assistant West Coast Promo Man, I knew I was going to be a promotion guy in 1965, whatever year that was. I said, that sounds like a good job. And when I got in radio, all these promotion guys would start coming around, and I went, wow, they got an expense account, and they make more money than I do. And it's kind of the same thing. I'm playing records as a disc jockey and turning on listeners to music. Now I'll be a promotion guy, and I'll turn on program directors and music directors to music. It's kind of the same job, except I'm making more money.
Yeah, and one thing about the record labels, you know what MCA stood for in the 70s, more cash always.
Sure. Music Cemetery of America is one of them.
But being able to come into a town and take a program director, music director out to a dinner, and you know what those expense accounts were like. And
sure.
That was a fun time to be in this business.
It was the greatest time in the world. And, I don't think it'll ever be the same again.
No.
Because, we used to become friends and help people out if they needed help, or, call up if they need somebody to talk to. We're there to talk to them. And it's changed so much, and it's so sad. But like you said, Bubba Wayne, you become friends with him back then, and you're still friends with him now. That's rare that it happens these days. It's so sad. We were guys that our breed would never turn you onto a bad record. Maybe occasionally, once, just to get an ad out of it, but I went out of my way not to turn a disc jockey or a program director or music director onto a bad record. Because it wasn't in our DNA, We didn't want to lie to anybody. And I don't know what it's like now, but boy.
It's not like that.
it was so different and so much fun. Blast.
Yeah, the way it is now, unfortunately, the record labels are the dinosaurs.
That's so sad. It's just, the music business in general, the actual music, that'll never be the same either. Ever.
No, it won't.
Think.
Well, I'm sure we could talk for hours about
We
mutual.
probably could. We should probably do an interview, huh?
We should. We're here today to talk about Tom Petty and me. And I've just got to say, your new book, do you have any idea when it's going to be out?
It's going to be out in late spring. And the reason I did a pre-sale is because fans asked me if I would autograph the book. And once it gets to Amazon, you can't do that. And I think a lot of fans read about me in the Warren Zanes biography of Tom Petty and saw that I had a major impact on his career. And so I wanted Warren Zanes, the author of that book, his autograph, but when he goes to Amazon, you can't do that.
Right.
So I put it on pre-sale, and I personalized it if somebody wants. And the Tom Petty fans are just unbelievable. There's a site on Facebook called Tom Petty Nation. There's 30,000 fans. And to this day, they still grieve right now. It's going to take a long time. I still don't believe it myself, to be honest with you, that it happened.
Yeah. I remember being on the air the day that news broke, and I couldn't believe it.
No, it wasn't supposed to end like this way. And I saw him in Memphis. I think he played Little Rock last year, right?
He did.
Yeah. And I saw him backstage, and I could tell he was looking a little bit, but he never said anything. He just said, "John, I'm hurting a little bit," and that's kind of all he said. And it's hard. I mean, to give me inspiration, I still listen to his music every day to give me some inspiration. And it took me. I think when I heard the news, I just couldn't believe it, and it took me maybe a month to cry. And when it started, I cried, and I just couldn't stop. Because I went to the memorial after and saw all of his close friends, Cameron Crowe, Jimmy Iovine, Stevie Nicks, and it was like a hug fest in the band. And it was just one of those things that you just never even thought would happen. Tom was such an amazing guy. He was a funny guy. He was a Southern boy who made it good, and he never forgot who helped him on the way up. And I'm not sure if you heard what he did for me at the Hollywood Bowl, the last show.
I did. Dedicating I Won't Back Down to You. Yeah.
And that came back from 40. He wanted to make sure that last night that I got my dues, because his record was about to be dropped when I came into his life. And I believe I saved his career, and I think that's the way God planned it for me to come into his life. And that was the last show of his tour. And then a week later, I got a punch in the gut, and it was like tough. Because when I was at that concert, I had heard, well, maybe this is his last tour. And so I wanted to be there. And I almost fell out of my seats when he did that. He stopped the show and dedicated that song to me. And it meant the world, because how I came into his life was very serendipitous.
There are several stories from different roads of life about Tom Petty, and I'm thinking about Don Felder, who wrote the autobiography a few years ago, mentioned working in a music store in Florida when this scruffy little blonde kid came in to buy his first guitar.
That's right.
And he called him Tommy Petty. He was just a kid from the neighborhood, And that was
That's a funny thing. Yeah.
That was years before Mudcrutch when you first discovered.
Right. Well, when I left FM 100 in Memphis to become a promotion man for MCA, and they gave me a cassette the first day of new songs that are coming out. And one of them stood out in particular. It was called Depot Street by Mudcrutch, and I had no idea who Mudcrutch was. And I got it played at a station in Nashville. And I called my boss. I said, "Hey, I got my first ad. I'm so excited." And he said, "John, Mudcrutch is really not a priority here. Go work Olivia Newton-John." So he said, "Forget about Mudcrutch." And I did. I forgot about Mudcrutch. And until one night, I asked Tom, "Have you been in any other bands?" He said, "Well, you never heard of them. They call them Mudcrutch." And I just said, "You mean Depot Street?" He goes, "How the heck did you know Depot Street?" I said, "Tom, this is the way God planned it, I think. I'm supposed to know you." and I'm supposed to help you. And how I met him, I'm not sure if you know how I met him.
I don't know the story.
Well, I worked at MCA Records, and I was out in Los Angeles and head of album promotion. And I was hanging with Elton John and The Who and Skynyrd and just having the time of my life. And they gave me an album by a guy named Johnny Cougar. And I liked it, but the record company hated it, thought his name was stupid, and they didn't like his manager, they didn't like the record. But I did. And I went to see him in Seymour, Indiana, his hometown, and I called up and said, hey, this guy's a star. And they didn't believe me. And I really felt like it's my mission to work Johnny Cougar. And they fired me for that. And I thank God that they fired me, because if I hadn't left MCA, I would have never gone to ABC Records. So I get hired by ABC Records. And when I get there, I had to take a pledge from my boss saying, you will not do a Johnny Cougar thing ever again. Like, root for a guy we don't like. I went, I promise you. And so 2 or 3 days later, I'm going to lunch, and I open my closet door to get my jacket, and a white vinyl album falls down with no name on it, no pictures, no nothing. And, like we're music junkies, and we want to hear what's on that record.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and listened to her breakdown, I hear American Girl, and every hair in my body is standing up like, good God, this record is good. And I get up, I was literally in a trance, I guess, I don't know. And you know what it's like when you hear those records, right?
Right, I do.
And you know what it's like when those hairs stand up on your arms. It's like, oh, boy, that's something special. So I asked my boss, I said, hey, who are these guys? And he said, oh, that's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. We're dropping that band. They're a punk rock band. And I almost fell over. I went, punk rock? What are you talking about? He said, look at this guy on the album cover. He's got a black leather jacket on, bullets around his neck. Radio stations think it's a punk band. And this record's been out for 8 months. We tried to work Breakdown. Nobody played it. It's only sold 12,000 copies. And I'm looking at him like he's crazy. And I'm just not putting 2 and 2 together here. And he said, yeah, we'll be dropping them in about 6 weeks. And I went, Charlie, I'm begging you, give me 6 weeks to call my radio friends, and I can get this record played. I know I can. And he said, well, if you want to make a fool of yourself and try to work this Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, whatever their name is, record, go ahead, make a fool of yourself. So I didn't even really hear what he said. I just said, in my mind, I knew I could do it. And I got on phones and some of my friends said, no, I never heard of the guy, Tom. And I think what happened is people saw that cover and it swayed them. Some of them just tossed it because they said, punk rock wasn't really a big AOR at the time.
Right.
The Ramones, Sex Pistols, they weren't really playing those bands. And anyway, so I did find a couple of people that had heard it and were playing it, and I said, well, maybe I'm on the right track here. And a couple of days later, he was playing the Whiskey opening for Blondie by chance.
Okay.
And I go, and I get there at 7 o'clock, and there's 10 people in the Whiskey. And I'm just shaking my head like, I don't understand. This is probably one of the greatest records I've ever heard in my life, and there's nobody here. And they came out, and they blew me away. If you've ever seen Tom Petty and Heartbreakers, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And my table must have been blown back 25 feet. And I'm just going, oh, my God. And there's a disc jockey there with me that had just come into town, the music director, and he said, John, I'm going to play Breakdown Monday morning. And I'm going to put it in heavy rotation. It was just me and him. And I go upstairs, and I say, oh, my God, I got to tell Tom what's going to happen. So I go up there, and I find him. He's wiping the sweat off his brow. I go, hey, Tom, I'm John Scott. I'm the new ABC head of promotion. And he looked at me and said, I don't care who you are. I hate your record label.
Wow.
And actually, he used stronger words than that, but I can't say them. But and I said, well, okay. And the band's laughing. Oh, the new guy at ABC Records. And they had a nickname for ABC, but I can't say that either. But I just say a bunch of, and then you figure it out. But
is it in the book?
Yes, it is in the book.
Okay.
It is in the book what they said ABC stands for. And anyway, so I said, well, have you ever heard your record on the radio in Los Angeles? And he went, no. Why? I said, well, you're going to hear it Monday morning. He said, BS. Why don't you just get out of here? You're a nut job. Another ABC Records nut job. For the past 8 months, you guys have ruined my career. You haven't promoted me. You put ads in Teen Beat magazine. And I'm done. I hate you guys. Just get out of here. And so, Jeff, I heard it that night. I saw it that night, and I heard it on the record. And I turned to him and I said, okay, Tom Petty, my name is John Scott. And every time you hear your record on the radio, you're going to think about me. And he just said, get out of here. And Burley Roadie comes up and tosses us out of the whiskey. And so come Monday morning, my friends started playing Breakdown in Los Angeles. They played it once an hour, every hour. And I'm kind of going, oh my God, it even sounds better on the radio. And so Wednesday morning, Tower Records calls him and says, hey, who are you playing, this new band? Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers? And they ordered 250 copies. Nobody could believe it because it was done. It was in the toilet, 8 months old. And the manager called me that day before the Tower Records order, and he said, who are you? Why are you trying to tell my artist you can break his career when ABC has done nothing for 8 months? And I said, Tony, I'm just going to do it. I know I am. I can feel it. And come Friday, I get a phone call. Tom Petty's on the line. And I'm kind of going, oh, boy, this could be either good or bad. And Tom, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And he gets on the phone and picks up, and he says, John, in Southern drawl, he's got a Southern drawl, John, I just want to apologize for cursing at you the other night, the whiskey. You're serious, aren't you? I said, Tom, I'm going to break your career. Wide open. He said, I'd like to meet you again. When can you come to my house? I said, how about tonight? He said, okay. And I jumped in the car. I wrote the address, scribbled his address down, and I flew over to his house. And that's when he asked, I went outside with him, and we kind of smoked a peace pipe.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I said, you ever been in any other bands? He said, yeah, you never heard of Mudcrutch. I went Depot Street, and that's when he went, oh, my God, this is too crazy. So I think this whole thing was meant to happen.
Certainly sounds that way. To reset, we're talking with John Scott, who's probably one of the closest people to Tom Petty over a 40-year span. And you've got a book coming out this spring called Tom Petty and Me.
Yes.
And the website and the Facebook page is all Tom Petty and Me, tompettyme.com. Easy to find.
Correct.
And I will say this from my perspective, knowing that you are so close with Wayne and having heard a lot of his stories over the years, I can only imagine how just riveting this book has got to be.
Well, thank you very much. It's a good book because it's like what it's like to hang with Tom Petty and the adventures that we went through and what it's like to be on the tour bus and hanging out with the band. And, Tom is like the greatest band in the world, the Heartbreakers. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a guitar player like Mike Campbell in my life.
No, and Benmont Tench.
Benmont Tench and Ron Blair and Stan Lynch. I love Stan Lynch, and I'm sorry he's not in the band anymore, but Steve Ferrone is great. But I loved Stan Lynch. And talking about funny, those 5 guys together, they would crack you up, I mean, at any moment. And Tom had all these characters. I think that's how some of his songs came about. He would talk in different characters, and he would just make you laugh. And that's what I loved about him. But the funny thing is, I felt like I was witnessing his history every night when I saw him back then, 77.
And you were.
They played, I was. And I would just shake my head at the end of the night going, he just did 6 encores. at a city in Santa Cruz, California. I've never seen a band do 6 encores. They wouldn't let him off the stage. And he told me, he said, John, I want to make sure that every concert is better than the night before. And I want to make sure every record I put out is better than the one that came out before. And that's just the way he was. He strived for perfection. And I've never seen anything like it in his life. Like I said, I've never seen anything like his fans. His fans are Tom Petty Nation on Facebook. There's 30,000 people on that fan site, and they're still grieving like all of us. And it's just a great place to let people know, hey, I'm still having trouble too believing that Tom Petty passed away.
Absolutely.
But when he played Little Rock, I'm sure the place was packed. And the funny thing about Tom going to Tom Petty show, it becomes a sing-along almost. Everybody knows every song.
It does.
And sometimes, he just lets the audience sing the whole song. I think, what's the song? Either Won't Back Down or, no, it's...
Breakdown.
Breakdown. The whole audience sings the song. He just kind of stands there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite live renditions off Pack Up the Plantation. And matter of fact, while we're on the topic, that is one of my biggest disappointments with Tom Petty was after I heard that version of Breakdown off the live album, Pack Up the Plantation, I always dreamed of being in a crowd where that happened. And the number of times I saw Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I think I saw him do Breakdown twice because he didn't always play it every night.
No, he didn't.
And the closest it got was in Dallas at the Starplex. The crowd started singing the song, and he just kept going and didn't turn it over to the crowd. And I thought, I was denied.
There's a song, that's so funny. There's a song on the second album called Restless. And I remember doing an interview, and he said, the DJ said, you never played this song, Restless. I love that song. Why don't you ever play it? He said, well, we go to this is the early days. We go to a concert, and people start screaming, Restless, Restless. And he said, I think they're just bored with me, so I don't play the song. Then somebody told me, no, they want you to play the song. He said, I just thought they were being rude. Not restless. But he was a character, man. So I just had fun writing this book, although it was a tough time for me. But it kind of picked me up in a certain way to share my stories about Tom and everything that we went through, because Tom never forgot who helped him in the beginning. And I think Wayne McManus has a few stories about Tom that are pretty funny too.
He does.
And yeah. And so he was one of the greatest guys in the world. That's all I can say. I had a flood in my house in 1980, and he said, John, you're not staying in your house. You're coming to my house. And he took me in for 30 days. And I moved to Hawaii one time and went through a hurricane over there and didn't have power for 8 weeks. He sent me a generator, FedEx. And that's just the kind of guy he was.
That's incredible.
Hanging out with him in Christmas and Easter is the greatest. He handpicked every gift for the guests that were going to be there. No gift was alike. And, it's just such a shame that we lost him. But his memory's going to live on in his music. There's no doubt in my mind.
And we're not going to stop playing Tom Petty music.
No, not in our lifetime.
No.
And because, I've turned it on to my grandkids, and they're Tom Petty fans.
He laid down some tracks that are timeless, that doesn't matter what generation, people can still relate to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you go to basketball games or football games, and they'll play I Won't Back Down.
Yeah.
Or if the other team is winning, they'll play even the losers. Get lucky sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you. I was going to tell you a funny little side story. Since we're sharing our Tom Petty stories. You mentioned him playing Little Rock last year. You remember American Girl was on a soundtrack to a movie?
Right.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
right?
Well, there's a guy that spends a lot of time in Little Rock, uh, Judge Reinhold.
Really?
Yeah, he's around quite a bit, and he was at the arena that night, and he posted a video of himself down on the side of the stage when that song played, with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in the background, and him smiling.
That is classic.
Yeah. He posted it on Twitter, and I retweeted it, and Cameron Crowe actually commented on it.
Oh, no kidding.
It was just kind of funny how that all came full circle.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things came full circle in Tom's life. I tell you right now, it's really the truth. I mean, the way he met Cameron, the way he met Danny Bramson, who took him into MCA, because Tom was having a battle with the record company.
Well documented.
Yes, and he wasn't going to go to MCA. And we were both at ABC when we heard the news that MCA was buying ABC. And he said, "Well, I'm not going." And I said, "Well, yikes, I'm not going either. They just fired me. They'll probably fire me again." And of course, Johnny Cougar became John Mellencamp, and we all had a good laugh out of that. But the funny thing is, when he went to settle his deal with MCA, Cameron Crowe was very responsible, or partly responsible for that, because he knew this kid named Danny Bramson, who had this offshoot label of MCA called Backstreet Records.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how things just come around like that. It's, and they changed his deal, and they made me a part of the deal that I had to come work there. And because, when they told me they were going to Backstreet Records, it was distributed by MCA, I don't want to have any part of that. But they said, no, you don't understand. You're part of the deal. You're coming to work for us, and you're going to tell MCA what to do. Now, let me tell you what pleasure that was.
I can only imagine.
I want red vinyl on this change of heart. I want postcards. I want video. And they just go, "Yes, John. Yes, John." So, and then, of course, his breakthrough album was Damn the Torpedoes. And what a great record that was.
It's still one of the benchmark rock albums of all time.
Of all time. And, Jimmy Iovine came into his life, the producer, and he had become friends, like I said, with Cameron Crowe, and Cameron was a big part of helping me promote. I would put Jimmy Iovine and Cameron Crowe on with radio stations when we were promoting Damn the Torpedoes before it came out. And they loved it. Excuse me. They loved every second of getting them. They said, "You think somebody wants to talk to me?" I was going, "Cameron, yes. I do want to talk to you." And Jimmy Iovine's kind of the same way. "You think they'd want to talk to me?" And I went, "Jimmy, you worked with Bruce Springsteen. Yes, they want to talk to you."
Absolutely.
So they got on the phone and talked to radio stations and helped me promote Damn the Torpedoes. But that was the most fun time in my life.
And now you've written a lot of this into the book.
Yes, I have. I've written a lot of it. There's a lot of pictures that nobody's ever seen before. There's when he went to the Traveling Wilburys, he was like a kid in a candy store. And quick little story is in the book. I bought a fax machine, and I told him about it. He said, "Well, what does it do?" And I explained it to him. So he had one. He went out and had one, bought for him, sent to his house. And he didn't know how to work it. He had 1901 as the date on the fax machine when it was sent to somebody. But so I sent him a fax, and he just went, "Oh my God, I can fax you back?" I said, "Yeah." So he faxed me back, and he drew this picture of himself and going, "Good God, geez, a fax machine." And he was like, we were like kids in the candy store. We'd fax each other back and forth, and I saved all these faxes. And they're in the book. But one is what's funny. He's like, "Hey, John, would you send me anything so I can show Roger McGuinn how this fax machine works?" And Roger was over at his house. And so I sent him something, and I get this fax back in a few minutes. "John, thanks for the fax demo. Roger McGuinn." He signed it.
Wow.
And I'm just going, "Oh, my God." And so I saved every fax that he sent me, and they're really hilarious. He was such a funny guy. He would doodle on every fax. he loved Elvis so much that he would usually put a picture of him and Elvis in a fax, and he would go, "You think there's any possibility that Charlie T. Wilbury Jr. and Elvis are joined at the hips?" And then he had a picture of him back to back with Elvis. But we had so much fun with that fax machine, and so we started faxing radio stations. Tom did.
Wow.
We thought that was a great idea. I don't know where we came up with the idea, but he started just saluting radio stations with a fax, and the radio stations couldn't believe it.
I can only imagine.
I mean, they'd call me up and say, "John, I think I just got a fax from Tom Petty. Is somebody pulling my leg?" No, that's Tom. It's Charlie T. Wilbury. And he had a picture of the Traveling Wilburys are coming, and we dubbed it the Traveling Wilburys Fax Promotion.
Wow.
And it was like so much fun, and he had a blast. I mean, especially when radio stations would fax him back. Howard Stern faxed him back. Just, oh my gosh. I mean, he loved doing things like that. He loved gadgets. He loved playing, new guitars and collecting old guitars. But he was just a character, a great character. I've never seen a musician like Tom.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to get my hands on Tom Petty and Me.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, because I think fans are going to love it, and even if you're not a fan, I think you'll get a few laughs out of it and get a little closer to Tom.
Well, like I said, speaking with John Scott on the phone today, like I told you earlier, knowing Wayne the way I do and hearing some of the stories we shared over dinner, I can only imagine what kind of things you've got to tell. He told us stories about The Who and Skynyrd and his time in the 70s, and some of the stuff's almost unbelievable. But it happened.
Well, I was at a few parties with Wayne, and some things happened that we have pictures of, but I really can't talk about. Wayne has probably told you a few stories. I'm not sure if he shared any pictures with you, but Keith Moon, we have so many Keith Moon stories.
Oh, he did have a lot, yeah.
Oh my gosh! And Wayne was really instrumental. And he had a party. They had a party in Houston for the Who.
He told me all about changing the street signs to Houston from the airport.
Yep. And I was in the limo coming with the band, and they were just like, "Did that sign say Houston?"
And he told me,
and they loved him.
He told me about the ice sculpture in the hotel lobby, and
did he? I'm sure he told you about saving a hotel from being ripped apart by Keith Moon.
He did.
And Wayne likes to order champagne, so he ordered a bunch of champagne because Keith was ready to destroy that hotel.
Yes, and, he did.
If it hadn't been for Wayne, he's got great stories too. He really does.
Well, I know you do too, and that's what
that's
what we got together today to talk about the book. And John,
it's so great to talk to you, Jeff. Yeah.
You too. I hate to cut this short, but in about 2 minutes, I got to go back on the air.
Well, buddy, go ahead, man. I had a blast talking to you, and especially if you know Bubba Wayne, Bubba Oz. I'm a fan of yours, man.
Well, and all the other mutual friends apparently we have.
You're right. You're right. We could probably sit down and talk for hours.
I know we could. Well, maybe we'll get the pleasure of actually meeting one day.
Well, we have these music industry reunions up here. Maybe you'll have to get out here one year.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, Jeff. Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I know Tom loved Memphis and Little Rock. He loved them and play those cities. And he's from the South, but he loved those cities. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me in my book.
Well, thank you for making time. I know this is a little later than you planned on the interview being, but I appreciate you.
Oh, I'm fine, man. I'm good to go. I'm having fun talking to you, to be quite honest with you.
And the feeling is mutual, John.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, well, I'll let you go, but thanks again, and have a great day.
We're brothers in rock, I can tell.
Absolutely.